Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're starting into our sixth cycle of 1994. We're doing that with an album. And this episode, we're talking about Superunknown by Soundgarden. So, just an excellent grunge record, a mid 90s album from them. I believe this was their fourth studio album. And then they did a couple years later, I think it was Down on the Upside. And then they, after that album, they ended up breaking up for a long while. I think they eventually put out another album in was it 2012 maybe? I don't really recall when that one came out. But we're talking about Superunknown here. So I have my notes here for it. We're going to get through those. Then we'll get to the track listing and all that. So let me just pull my notes up here for this album. All right, so we have Superunknown, first released March 8th, 1994. Mentioned earlier, this is their fourth studio album. My first exposure to them would have been in the summer of 1994, watching MTV with a friend of mine, and the Black Hole Sun music video came on. It's an iconic music video, very weird, kind of trippy, but just a cool music video, a great track off the album as well. One of their best tracks, I think. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction to them, and I think eventually I saw the music video. I think they did a music video for Spoon Man as well, so I remember seeing those. I didn't fully listen to the album until it was sometime in when I first got a portable MP3 player. So I'm not sure exactly when. I didn't listen to it right when it came out, but listened to it on an MP3 player. Eventually picked up the CD. Actually found it at a thrift store for a couple bucks. So that was actually pretty sweet. So I have it on CD. One of their best albums. I don't know where I necessarily rank it. I think I slightly like Bad Motorfinger, maybe just a little bit more. Jesus Christ Pose is great. Both those two albums are just classic though. There were, let me see here, I think 4 singles from it. So the singles that were released off of this album were Spoon Man, The Day I Tried to Live, Black Hole Sun, My Wave, and Fella Black Days. All of those tracks are amazing. I remember at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert in LA back in 2022, Taylor Momsen and I think a bunch of the other kind of Seattle grunge scene musicians that were at that event, I think did a cover of The Day I Tried to Live, and they also did a cover of Black Hole Sun as well. So that was really cool. Let's see here. I had a classmate, I think this would have been in 1995. We were talking about music one day, and I think somehow Soundgarden came up. I was asking him what he thought of Soundgarden. He's like, oh, I like Soundgarden, but from what I remember, he was pretty religious, or his family was at least. And I think he bought the CD, and I think his mom made him get rid of the CD due to it being, they claimed that it was satanic or something. Yeah, the black, maybe you could put a spin on Black Hole Sun. I think that's what we were talking about, where he claimed his mom thought the song was satanic, so he had to get rid of it. That was just kind of funny. A little bit of that satanic panic still going around in the mid-90s. When they went to record this, the band members worked on a lot of this stuff separately. So each member kind of, did stuff on their own, made their own demos, and then brought those demos in, and then the rest of the members would contribute to those demos to help create the album. Chris Cornell basically said that each member was given more freedom to kind of do their own thing than maybe they had on their previous records. They recorded it at Bad Animal Studio in Seattle, and I have a quote here from Chris Cornell about recording it there. So Chris Cornell apparently said, quote, this is obviously recorded in Seattle, says, quote, there was never a decent studio in Seattle, and now there's one with a Neve console, so it seemed obvious to use it. So the Neve consoles are kind of iconic. I know the Neve console that was in, I think, the original Sound City Studios was picked up by Dave Grohl, so he's got that at his studio, at Studio 606. So yeah, these Neve consoles are iconic, and Chris Cornell is basically saying there was never really a decent studio to record it, and then kind of one pops up that actually has this kind of legendary piece of this legendary mixing console. So they recorded it there. What else did I have here? Let me see here. Yeah, got a little quote here. It took them a little bit longer to record this album than I think they maybe anticipated. So think Bad Motorfinger came out in 1991. I think they started working on this album right after the '92 Lollapalooza tour. So they worked on it for like at least like a year and a half or so. And another quote from Chris Cornell, because they switched producers on this one. I think they had the same producer for the previous two albums, and then they ended up getting a new producer for this one. And the quote here is kind of about just the producer wanting to experiment with all kinds of different sounds and things. So the quote from Chris Cornell is, quote, Michael Beinhorn, that's the new producer, was so into sounds, he was so almost anal about it, that it took the piss out of us a lot of the time. By the time you get the sounds that you want to record the song, you're sick and tired of playing it. So kind of just doing a lot of like experimentation with the sounds. There was, like I said, the album took longer. Like there was a much longer process between this album than their previous ones. And then we got that. Let me see. There was one other quote here from Chris Cornell, I think. Oh yeah, the album is kind of long, so it comes in at like an hour and 10 minutes. So it's a little bit on the longer side. And the quote from Chris Cornell says the reason it was like that was, quote, we didn't really want to argue over what we should cut. So, or yeah, what should be cut, I should say. Yeah, so there's like, it's kind of, like I said, it's a little bit on the long side, but the album, I don't know if you really could cut anything. I think everything really fits like on the album. It is a little bit on the long side, but it's still, I think, kind of like a perfect grunge record. Like it's really, like it's kind of like in the same league as like Nevermind and some of like Alice in Chains, Dirt, I would say. Like definitely one of the more iconic albums of the kind of early to mid '90s Seattle grunge sound. So it's, like I said, a little bit long, but I don't really know if you could cut anything. And even Chris Cornell was quoted as saying, you know, we didn't want to argue over what we should get cut out of the record. It reviewed pretty well, so let me bring up the reviews, and then we'll get to our track list. So kind of it's critically acclaimed. The initial reviews that came out when the album was new, Entertainment Weekly had it at an A, the LA Times had it at a 3.5 out of 4, while Q gave it a 5 out of 5. Rolling Stone had it at a 4 out of 5, and then Select gave it 3 out of 5. And then retrospectively, it's reviewed a little bit better. So it still had pretty good reviews when it came out in 1994, but then there's even more reviews now. So now AllMusic retrospectively has it at a 5 out of 5. Blender also has it at a 5 out of 5. Pitchfork has it at an 8.5 out of 10. And that's pretty high for them. They're usually, Pitchfork is kind of very kind of, not very critical, but they have like very high standards, I should say. Rolling Stone Album Guide has it at a 5. Spin also has it at a 5. And the Spin Alternative Record Guide has it at an 8 out of 10. And now we're going to look into our track list. So there is, let's see here, 15 tracks on this album. Comes in at about an hour and 10 minutes. Track 1 is Let Me Down. Track 2 is My Wave. That's one of the singles that was great. Track 3 is Fell on Black Days. One of my favorite tracks on the record. I would probably say The Day I Tried to Live, Fell on Black Days, and Black Hole Sun are probably my favorites overall. But yeah, track 3 is Fell on Black Days. Track 4 is Mailman. Track 5 is Superunknown. So our title track there. That was actually really, really solid as well. Track 6 is Head Down. Track 7 is Black Hole Sun. One of their, like, again, most iconic tracks. Track 8 is Spoon Man. That's kind of a classic for them as well. Track 9 is Limo Wreck. Track 10 is The Day I Tried to Live. Again, one of the best tracks on the album. Track 11 is Kickstand. Track 12 is Fresh Tendrils. Track 13 is 4th of July. Track 14 is Half. And then track 15 is Like Suicide. So that's it, track 15. Again, 15 tracks, about an hour and 10 minutes. And you just got great musicians on this record. Obviously, Chris Cornell, just amazing vocalist. You have Kim Thayil on the guitar. Ben Shepherd on bass, and then Matt Cameron on drums. I think now drums for Pearl Jam. So kind of going from one Seattle band to the other. Saw him at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert as well. And yeah, Matt Cameron is just incredible on this record, and then obviously on basically, like, I really loved his drumming on Low, or not Low, Low is the Foo Fighters version of that, Jesus Christ Pose off of Bad Motorfinger. It's just say Low is kind of what Dave Grohl said they kind of copied, or Jesus Christ Pose is what Dave Grohl said they copied for Low, which is on, I think, One by One, I think. If I'm Yeah, I think that one has Low on it. Let me see. Yeah, Low is on One by One. But yeah, basically kind of emulated Matt Cameron's drumming on that track. But yeah, Superunknown is just a great, just grunge record. Like I said earlier in the video, kind of right up there with like Nevermind as being kind of, shining examples of kind of that 90s, early to mid 90s Seattle sound, so to speak. But that is going to do it for this video. We'll be back again in a few days covering a movie from 1994 and then moving into another video game before we jump back into 1995. So that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.